people are so hung up on success and failure. It's a lesson learned. This idea that somehow it's a failure, to me, it is only a failure if you stop and give up. That's a failure.
Right. Business is this series of lessons and successes, but it's all about the impact that you can create. We largely get into this to create freedom for ourselves, and that's through the impact that we have on the people that we serve. We can't lose sight of the fact that we serve other people with our business. It's just about us. We serve other people. We serve our family. We serve our staff. We serve our clients. We serve our partners. It comes from that position of service to others. Thanks again for joining us on an episode of More Clients, Less Effort. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see how amazing Tricia looks. Now, Tricia Benn is my guest today, and Tricia is the CEO of the C-Suite Network, the world's most trusted network for senior business leaders. And she's also the general manager of the Hero Club, which is also part of the C-Suite Network and among other things. Tricia's mission is to build a C-Suite network platform, a community content council, commerce, that accelerates the success of C-suite executives, owners, and investors, on influence as well. Let's not forget influencers. She's also a leader and created an executive community collaboration based on integrity, transparency, and measuring the success above the numbers alone, which is what she calls the hero factor. Now, this approach brings together Tricia's more than 20 years track record of industry disruption in building new businesses, revenue streams, and delivering double-digit year-on-year growth. Now, there's more which we're going to get into as well. You've been the Global Chief Marketing Strategy Officer and US Managing Director with MDC Partners, a $3 billion global holding company. You've had an absolute ton of experience in leadership and all sorts of other things. Tricia, it is my absolute tremendous opportunity to interview today, and thanks for joining us.
I am so thrilled to be here with you, Tim, and I'm a huge believer that great business is with great people, and also you have to be having great fun. So I'm so looking forward to our conversation.
I know, it's funny how, like, when we do these values, and I've just done a little values exercise, we were talking about this offline as I build my team, and I did a new onboarding document, a team onboarding document over Christmas. And it was the one luxury I afforded myself. But we're talking about values and what's important to us. I don't think people put fun in that very often, do they?
I would be willing to bet that doesn't happen very often, but it's essential. If you're not having fun, that's not business, that's misery. So my whole take on things is you've got to be figuring out how you're enjoying what you do and how you enjoy it with whom you are doing it with. So, or make the change you want to see, because life is way too short for that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things about entrepreneurship we kind of lose sight of, is that if you don't enjoy it, why would you do it? Like no other thing that you can do, you get to choose exactly how you work, where you work, when you work, who you work with.
And your values statement is the principles by which those decisions get made. It is a really important structure in your organization. So for C-Suite, on the community side of our whole entire ecosystem, I know, Tim, you've heard it 1,000 times, right? The 4 R's: relevancy, reach, reciprocity, respect. Those are critical to ensuring that we have a successful community where, I know you'll be able to attest to this, there is very little drama, there is very little nonsense, and a lot of really great people driving success and sharing where they've succeeded, where things have not gone according to plan and were not successful for them, but ultimately also why, transparently, so that we could all be learning, growing, building, scaling, and also acting with respect with each other, even though we're completely diverse and we have people coming in from all different parts of the world and different industries, obviously different demographics and firmographics and so on. Those values are absolutely critical to being able to move forward and have everyone on your team, whether they're an employee or anyone else aligned on your mission, know what the criteria are for making great judgments.
When did business become so serious? I just had this really weird sort of flash in my mind of that scene with Heath Ledger in Batman. It's so serious.
Yeah. The thing is, there are so many really serious implications. When you're an entrepreneur, especially, there are really serious implications. You're on the first not to get paid list. That means immediately, not just you, but your family and everyone your family serves is immediately affected. It is serious, but if you're not having fun with that journey of delivering on your mission and seeing that success with the people that you're serving, then you're in the wrong place and you've got to change that. That's a soul killer and that's not acceptable. The other thing is it's not okay just to be boring. Life should not be boring, right? You should be taking on missions, challenging, seeing where your next success can be. I'm a huge believer that if you can affect one person's life, have great impact with one person, that's a life well led. But if you can do that with one, why not two? And then why not three? Let's add zeros. Why not 30? Why not 300, 3,000, 30,000, etc.? And that doesn't mean killing yourself, because if you're scaling like that, obviously you have a lot of people on your mission with you. You can be having a lot of fun with that. And it's certainly not boring.
Yeah, it's an area that I know that our values align really closely, Tricia. And again, creating this document to sort of articulate this to some new team members I'm bringing on. It was, well, what do we do this for? What's our mission? What are our values and what are our mission, right? And very much about the impact and the ripple effect, the opportunity that we create for other people to change their world. However big that world is going to be for them. It might be just them and their family, create opportunity for them. It might be for them to change the world and make people better, give them more opportunity than they had before.
I love that. And we are very much values aligned. Shouldn't it be that when you've delivered what you deliver, the person you deliver it to should see success with that delivery? That should be a basic, right? But it's actually a unique opportunity in our markets today, typically, where that is not necessarily the promise delivered. So when you're delivering success for that person that you're servicing or you're providing products or service to, that is that ripple effect. And it's pretty darn simple concept. And the fact of the matter is, if that client, partner, whoever it is that you're serving to, community member, if they're succeeding, they have more to give back and more to paying for products and services moving forward. It's definitely an abundance mindset. And again, I love where you're going with the values, because I think that's where the framework is set for everybody to understand.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, right? Business is this series of lessons and successes, but it's all about the impact that you can create, right? We largely get into this, to create freedom for ourselves, and that's through the impact that we have on the people that we serve. We can't lose sight of the fact that we serve other people with our business. It's just about us. We serve other people. We serve our family. We serve our staff. We serve our clients. We serve our partners. But it comes from that position of service to others.
Here's another thing I find is so interesting is people are so hung up on success and failure. And I love what you said, Tim, about lessons learned. It's a lesson learned. This idea that somehow it's a failure, to me, it is only a failure if you stop and give up. That's a failure, right? I could do it, but I'm just going to give up. If you get information that tells you that's not going to work so well the way that we were thinking, but I got information I could try this instead. Now you're learning. And as long as you're scaling and adapting that kind of feedback into your modeling, into how you're scaling your business, that is really key to seeing success. And if you can get your team, and again, whether that's a full-time employee, part-timer, 1099, partner, client, a team, we have to think of much wider than we typically do. If we've got information that we know will work or not work, and we've got the courage for them to understand, awesome. It's information, and that's going to help us move forward and drop things that aren't working. Now you've got a winning team premise.
Okay. I've got a question for you here, Tricia. And I know you've worked in some massive businesses. By no stretch of the imagination to these small businesses. In fact, we know that 94% of businesses never make it past six figures, sort of 6-figure mark. 4% of businesses make it past $1 million, right? 0.4% make it to 10 million, and even fewer make it to $1 billion. What do you think is the difference? I know we're all ambitious. Some of us more ambitious than others. And I know one of your goals for C-Suite Network is to definitely get into the $1 billion club. what do you see the difference in either mindset or tenacity or skill set or something between a small and micro business that might be joining the C-suite network for the first time and someone who's really crushing it and potentially has then the opportunity to create a global impact?
Yeah, what a great question, Tim. It's funny, I've never been asked that question. What I would say is I've had the great benefit of, as you said, working for very large enterprise-sized organizations. In fact, the very first organization I worked for was sold for, I think it was $30 million at that point, which was a lot of money at that time. And the founder, who was Angus Reid, he profit shared with every single employee. So we all had buy-in success of that organization and the delivery dates of success over the buyout period of time. So that was a really incredible experience.
Was that something that he did after the fact, or was that something you going into the sale that you had an equity piece on it? Or did he just go, you help me get here, here's a piece of pie?
Yes. As soon as they negotiated the deal, they let us know what our part would be in it if we delivered on the results over the next period of time. Yes. So it was really phenomenally well done. In fact, I didn't know any other organizations that were doing that at that time. There had been a lot of disastrous acquisitions that were highly publicized. This was in the Canadian market at that point. And so that brought me into my first billion-dollar organization. And so moving from there, I went down to Ottawa, Washington, D.C. I went back up to Canada to Rogers, which is over a $28 billion organization. Enormous. Communications, wireless, all media. I mean, a very, very large organization. But again, I had the benefit of knowing Ted Rogers and having him be in what we called our campus. We had several thousands of people on that campus, and he still came into the cafeteria right up until he passed in our campus. And that's where his headquarters and office was. So I had that experience, and that was in Toronto, Canada. And then MDC Partners, which was in Toronto, New York. It was actually on the stock exchange out of New York, but founded by a Canadian who happened to hire me in that CMO and strategy role, and then as a managing director for one of our businesses out of New York. What I would say in all of those instances is that scaling beyond just the sort of average growth or a lifestyle business or a nice little business to sell off and live comfortably from in retirement and have little projects and comfort. That exponential scaling was all about people. It was all about having faith, scaling with other people, much more of an abundance mindset, and really fueling the growth with great leaders that were brought in at all levels through that organization under that original founder's sort of vision and mission and connection to the winning for those leaders.
Yeah, we were talking about this very briefly offline, and this is something that Lloyd Thompson shared with me on another podcast episode. And I hadn't heard it before. He shared the Jeff Bezos pizza rule. Right?
Yes.
Never command more people. Well, this is my spin on it anyway. Never command more people than you can feed with 2 pizzas. And I do think it's one of those things. I actually did an exercise late last year. I was planning my 2024. What I mean, and I wrote under sort of health, business, finance, sex, relationship, home, and community sort of things. And the top thing I wrote in my business category, I'm looking over my whiteboard over here, which now says "Stop being the doer and the bottleneck." Because I think we, as small business owners, that we get into this position where we feel that we need to be the one who does stuff. And what you're sharing quite clearly here, Tricia, is that we've got to surround ourselves with good people, right?
Yes.
Give them the tools they need to succeed, and then get the hell out of their way.
It is absolutely critical. Miles Nadell was the founder of MDC Partners with a $100 loan. And I'll tell you what, if you sat in the room with him, so he was the one who brought me on board, you sit in the room with him, and I don't care if you have 5 minutes or 55 minutes, whatever. When you walk out of the room, you feel like you can fly through the walls. No problem. And that's a gift. And he has a whole set of rules. When you hire somebody or when you bring people into that inner pizza circle, you want to make sure these are people that you want to go to dinner with, that you could be in a small cabin for a weekend with, that you could be stuck on a tarmac for 24 hours with. He has a whole slew of these rules about how you pick your partners and your teammates in business. And I think that is just so smart. For me, I really hit this point. I thought, okay, that's brilliant. And we've got a little book. I got
That's a nice thing for you to say. You're a $3 billion billionaire.
Yeah, this is great, right? But it's all in how it applies to you, right? In your leadership, where you are at the different times in your building. And for me, it really hit me about a year and a half into COVID. We had always said, listen, in the C-suite network, we're values-based. And if you aren't the kind of leader that's going to create real value for the people you serve, if you're just ripping people off, we want nothing to do with you. We don't serve assholes here. That was the rule. No assholes here. And about a year and a half into COVID, after 16, 18-hour days in front of this screen nonstop, and my voice lowering because of the damage I did to my vocal cords in that length of time talking and hosting events virtually nonstop, I decided that is such a low bar. No more. I added respect to our principles. That was one.
Yeah.
I also decided and shared with anyone, first my business partners, obviously, in my team, and then beyond that, I will only work with people closely that I can know, love, trust. And that is what I need to do in order to scale to the $1 billion platform. I told you that's my vision. I'm the one who said that. My business partner who founded C-Suite Network said, thanks a lot, Tricia. Could you not maybe say 100 million first? No, you just skip to a bit. Like, well, listen, I've had a footprint of $1 billion my whole career. I see this platform as being so much bigger and so in that right spot to fuel the success of owners, of executives, of influencers that understand that the old way that we did things at best was inefficient in the world we live in, the hybrid world we live in today, and at worst, absolutely unacceptable and unethical. And so this platform and our entire ecosystem is built to fuel the success of everyone either serving those communities or in those communities. And when you have that delivered efficiently, that's exciting. So to me, that's where that all fits together.
I'm going to throw this little curveball at you because I think this is an important one to ask. I did another podcast with my dear friend Sam Riley, right? And we must have recorded 500 or 600 episodes of her show together. And so it's a few. And we were talking about the magic million, right? So many new businesses go, I'm going to make $1 million. Here's my flag. Right? You're a little bit ambitious. Maybe you've just slipped a couple of decimal points there. But why $1 billion for you? What does that mean? Should C-Suite hit $1 billion? What's the relevance of that number for you?
The relevance of that number is, it's what a powerful question, Tim. For me, it's not about the money per se. It's about the influence and the ability to really, truly disrupt. You introduced me as being a disruptor. I've gone through scenarios where people have kindly told me, some people don't think about that word very positively. I love it.
What's that?
Yeah, exactly. I love it. When we know there are better ways of doing things, smarter, faster, and we can help people actually leapfrog success that's dedicated to seeing that ripple effect that we've talked about, the improvements and the ability for people to see success in their lives and in their lifetime. You kind of have to live to get to that success. I just see $1 billion platform as having the kind of influence and importance and like the tool set that will help drive that success. So that's what I see. I see it as being integral to creating real, meaningful, leapfrogged success, not just, well, I'll plod along and I'll buy this one program and I'll wait till next month or maybe in the new year or whatever. If we can be learning, growing across our communities, our content, our counsel, and our commerce, if we can be doing all of that efficiently, oh my goodness, it is massively disruptive, incredibly efficient. And the people who get it are the people we want to serve, right? They're like you, Tim, your abundance mindset. Why would I do shit I suck at? It just doesn't make any sense, right? I'm going to partner with people who are the same mindset, but have that at excellence and run.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you find very difficult to articulate when you're talking about your values because it gives you this warm, fuzzy feeling inside, right? It's like, I'm so passionate about this, and you can hear it in people's voice when they talk about something that they're ridiculously into.
It's unnerving, and actually I struggle with this all the time. So for people who are listening, I am a fairly petite blonde male. I always have different colored hair. I got to disrupt my own every day. But I'm a fairly petite woman, and I want to be able to change the world, make a big difference. And I thoroughly 1000% believe in great business to drive great business results. But when you talk about the values, when you talk about disruption, the way that you and I are talking about it and getting really excited about it, it sounds like you're talking about unicorns and rainbows and all fuzzy, warm things. It is tough. It's no joke. Being a business builder, regardless of whether you're an executive at an enterprise-sized organization or a solopreneur who's just starting out in their business, it is tough. And it's not all rainbows and unicorns and sunshine, right? You've got to be leaning on your community to create real success, meaning, and have a bit of a shoulder when you have the tough days and so on. But this is really great business. So when you work with great people, you create more efficiencies in the business model, then you have greater profitability, which allows you to invest back in and scale more effectively. So it's very much the hard numbers. It's just how you get there. I have a very scientific way that I look at this. There's like where you are now, there's where you want to be, and then there's the icky in the middle. That's a lot of icky. And if you don't have great partners to help you get through that as painlessly and as quickly and as efficiently in your business model as possible, you can't do it.
I want to pivot a little bit here. I think what we'll be talking about so much is surrounding yourself with the right people, right? And I've said it before. I think one of the sort of endearing lessons I learned from my career in project management was I can't do everything, right? I've got to surround myself with the right people, give them the tools they need to succeed, and get the fuck out of the way, right? And that's clearly fundamental to your approach as well, right? I can't be the expert in everything, but I can be the expert in getting the right people to be experts at their stuff.
Yes.
What is the system? I mean, do you have a system or an approach that you use, not necessarily to bring clients on, although fundamentally part of this show? What's the system that you use to get to the right people around you? Do you have a process for that?
Yeah. So here's something that I found to be quite interesting. You've heard people say, everybody has, I'm jealous, right? Like they'll say, I'm jealous you have this, or I'm jealous you're doing that, or those kinds of things. This is my own personal system, and then I can talk about the business. But for me personally, when you're the leader, if you aren't truly passionate about the success of the people around you, you can't pull it off. And the chemistry will be all wrong. So you really have to want to see people's success. So one of the things for me that I have so much joy and fun around this is a lesson I learned from an interview I did just like this several years ago. And the interviewer said to me, Tricia, if you could sit and have breakfast with anyone you wanted to, who would you have breakfast with? And I said, and very simply, because I'd just taken over running the Hero Club. So I was meeting all of these CEOs, founders, investors, all pledged, leading with integrity, transparency, giving back to their community, sharing in their success. I mean, this is everything I stand for in business. And I have all these incredible leaders I'm bringing on board, and I don't have enough time. So I without hesitation said, I would have breakfast with any of my CEOs in my Hero Club. And the woman said, Tricia, I'm sorry, you might have misunderstood the question. I meant like anybody. Let's say alive or dead. And
Alive or dead.
Yeah, I understood the question, and it still stands. And here's the reason. And I told her, if I had 1,000 lives to lead, I'd lead the lives of the people that I basically know, love, trust. So I live vicariously through that success. And it's so exciting. You have the opportunity. Never before have we had so much opportunity to have excellence in everything right at our side. It's incredible. It's extraordinary. Here you are in Australia, Tim, and I have you by my side many Fridays, most Fridays, right? Like, how incredible is that? And then in between when we're meeting on different things, like it is an incredible opportunity. So I would say for me, I get the opportunity to play and run with people at their absolute excellence and fuel that success. So when you're leading your teams, I think about it the exact same way with my team members, and I make a game of all of it. Like for me, I have someone right now on my team who is scaling and growing like crazy, and I am fueling this like crazy. Now, I have to drive enough business that I can promote her where I need to. Like, so I've got a game to play, right? I need more profitability and scaling around these responsibilities so that I can do that before she finds something else, because I'm making her worth twice as much. And that's the game for me, right? So how do you create that success and see that success and have that alignment in terms of how that benefits your business? So from a business perspective with C-Suite right now, I'm building out our C-Suite divisions. And Tim, you and I have spoken about this, but it's basically the whole premise of C-Suite Network with our entire platform and our whole ecosystem. It creates efficiency in any business leader's model. So how do I then bring in partners that I can know, love, trust, have them lead that C-Suite property, whatever that might be? So we have C-Suite experiential marketing, C-Suite marketing technology, C-Suite media placement, C-Suite business valuations, and so on and so forth. And these are business leaders who've got decades of experience and all of their teams in place that are serving at excellence in the areas that they're delivering in. So I can negotiate with them. I know their values aligned. I know what my members and partners across our entire platform need to be able to succeed with their support. And then we move forward faster together. So that's how I'm multiplying and certainly scaling very rapidly the entire ecosystem of C-Suite Network and the success our partners and members will see from it.
Let me break that down a bit in granular detail. Okay, so we're talking at a high level. I've partnered with the right people. They've got the right values. I would invite them up to the cabin for a weekend, or I'll invite them to Thanksgiving or whatever it happens to be. I like these people. I'm going to hang out with them. And I think that's a super important thing, right? We have to like the people that we work with. It's not just a case of visibility. And I'm going to challenge the BNI thing here. If you're familiar with BNI's, one of BNI's frameworks, they talk visibility, credibility, profitability.
Yeah.
I think fundamentally that's actually pretty sound. I'd like to add one key element into that, and that's likability.
Yeah.
Right? Visible, credible, likable equals profitability. And I think that's a key one. I want to break that down in a little bit more granular detail for an actionable thing that our listeners can take away. Do you have a process by which you qualify partners, onboard partners? What does that look like for you? Is it just a loose kind of thing, or is it really driven down to, we do an initial qualification and at 90 days we do an account process? What does that look like in more granular detail?
So for me, this is such a critical decision. I cannot afford time being wasted. So it's way beyond money is time. And so I am now at a point where I will have someone come into the C-Suite Network in some way or another. And then that way I not only get to know them, but I also get to see how they're interacting with others. And then I also work with my potential partners. So there's a testing of what does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it deliver? So I know more about it than just, oh yeah, we have an arrangement and I get a rev share. So how do I make sure that I'm taking into account whatever those catches are in that industry? So for example, we have C-Suite publishing. In the publishing industry, there are all kinds of games and interesting things that happen where people are massively overcharged. They don't have the rights to their own IP. There's like a whole slew of things. So how do we streamline that? In C-Suite Network, the publishing solution is very streamlined to get most business leaders what they need quickly, affordably, and move on to what they really need the book for, which is credibility to sell, a consulting gig, speaking gigs, those kinds of things. So that way I'm able to work with that leader to tailor it to them. So it is very much a multi-stage process for me. I'm not a very shiny object kind of person. I am really dedicated to investing in relationships and then figuring out, okay, what are the games that we're helping people, or the pitfalls or the potholes that we're helping people avoid so that they can succeed faster and have their money go where it needs to deliver the success they need.
I think that's a really good lesson for any partnership that you enter. Work out, because you can't necessarily tell someone's values from the outside, right? You can't go, what are your values? Here's my checklist, and here's where they line up. You've got to, values are really kind of, I think, demonstrated through action. And so if you're meeting someone for the first time and getting to know them and you're saying, hey, let's see how we can help each other, make it a small thing, right? And see whether they actually see that through, right? Which demonstrates intent. Then do a slightly bigger thing. Then see if they kind of cross-refer you or introduce other people. They bring to the table, not just what are they taking from it. I really like that process at a granular level. And you could put that into a checklist if you wanted to. Say, this is the first thing we do. This is the second thing we do. This is the third thing that we do, right? And then only then do we start saying, hey, let's actually see if we can explore maybe a joint venture here.
Exactly. And how do you make that happen in a way that you can actually observe those behaviors? I love that. With interviewing, I'm the same way. I'm interviewing people. Sometimes I'm interviewing people for years. I've got conversations that are sitting out there that when I have the right position and it's the right time for that person, we'll be set to go. But I take a lot of time and I ask scenarios and I listen. And I also set up several different interactions, and not just with me, absolutely with the team. How does somebody act when they think it's somebody that's not associated?
You're not there.
Yeah, exactly. How do they treat the receptionist? How do they act when they think there's a client in the room? You know, like what are those different scenarios? You said likability, and I think that's really interesting, Tim. Likability is something that you have to see people in a social environment of how people react to them and how they're interacting and reacting as well. And I would fine tune it to, you cannot be likable if you come across as somebody who's going to be jealous of somebody else's success. That when I was saying that earlier, likability is very much about, you're not a threat, you're actually a supporter. You're somebody who's going to help me along my way. So I think there's a lot to that word. And I think about that a lot because there are people who want to be community leaders where nobody will follow them. And it's not that they're not likable necessarily, but there's something to it. I don't know.
There's this intangible thing.
There is an intangible. You have to observe to know what that is for people.
Yeah, I think that there's a bunch of other words that sort of come to mind for me in that, right? There's certainly an inherent charisma that comes in that you need to cultivate. If you want to be a leader, I think you need to cultivate a charisma, but that charisma comes from a position of integrity, right? And consistency and humbleness, right? Coupled with ambition.
Right. Well, but and then you could have people who have incredible charisma, but really genuinely are not there to serve others. So it's
lack of selfishness almost.
Yeah.
Selflessness is probably the thing you kind of look for. And that sort of plays into that charisma. So people can be very charismatic. They can be great orators. They can look amazing, but be very self-centered and have no charisma.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think there's this mix of kind of these qualities that come into leadership that ultimately means people want to follow them and want to be around them. And I wrote one of my goals for the year is to be more interesting. And to be more interesting, I need to do more interesting things. And when I do more interesting things, I'll be more interesting and I'll attract more interesting people.
Oh my goodness. When we were speaking offline about surfing, I just think, I don't know, Tim, I think you're pretty damn interesting as it is. But the more we do, certainly the more we're challenged. And I'm a big proponent of that. Do things you stink at for fun, not to be an expert. Like I'm a massive believer in build on strength. For goodness sake, if you hate something, don't do it as your job or your responsibility. You find somebody else who loves it. But for the fun piece of shaking things up, trying new things, doing things that you're gonna have to laugh if you're not an idiot. Like, you're probably not going to be a surfing champion of the world. Okay. But if you go out and you have fun, awesome. If you go out and you get pretty good at it, great. But whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You're just going to enjoy it.
Absolutely. Well, I went salsa dancing last week and I'm going surfing next week for the first time. So
surfing next week for the first time. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, first time. I've never been surfing before. I'm going next week.
Okay.
I went salsa. I did a salsa lesson for the first time last week.
Did you enjoy it?
That? Probably good. It was a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah, that's awesome. I ballroom danced for many years, but because of my figure skating. So
there we go. We're going to pivot now. I haven't sprung these questions on you in advance, right? So we're going to get some interesting answers. I know that you'll be very able to answer these questions. What's the biggest challenge that you're facing in C-Suite and Hero Club right now, and how are you tackling it?
Oh my goodness. So biggest challenges right now, probably the biggest challenges that I have is how I continue to keep up with my scaling while creating the profitability necessary to do that scaling. So that's my biggest
Growth
challenge.
is expensive, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
How are you tackling that?
So the way that I'm tackling that is I'm diversified through my strategy and the entire platform. So I've really stratified and clearly delineated the different aspects of the business and the pillars. So I walked you through the platform, the ecosystem. I didn't have that framed before 2 years ago. So that framing is there now. Then also how people are engaged in the C-suite. Now I'm working through all of the financials of where I really need to focus. So what is my loss leader to drive engagement within the platform? And then where am I profitable to be able to be investing back in the business? And then the big strategic partnerships. And you're going to see some announcements coming out this month that we're very excited about and create tremendous scaling and growth. So that's been my major focus, is just getting really clear on where we are sitting, what's my loss leader in terms of engagement. So for example, in C-Suite Network, we have at least 3 to 4 times the industry average for our length of membership. And when you look at everything else we're doing and the success we're able to now refer through to our partners, that is exponentially longer again in terms of its potentiality. So it's changing and evolving the entire business model.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's a commonly held belief about your role as the CEO that you passionately disagree with?
I passionately disagree with. Well, we
Yeah.
did have a lot of fun with my chief community officer title. So when I was chief community officer and running the business, we had an ongoing conversation internally about when I would be promoted to CEO officially. And that was quite interesting, because there were some people who understood the chief community officer and I was running the business of C-Suite Network, and there were others who thought chief community officer was like chief cheerleader of the community. And so that made it, so we had this ongoing discussion for a couple of years in terms of when I would actually have the announcement made publicly. And then we had the fun of making it public. And suddenly people who wouldn't schedule meetings with me because I was the chief community officer couldn't wait to get on my schedule. So that's probably the biggest one that I had. And since then, honestly, the workflow is tremendous, and our scaling makes it exponentially that much more so. So over the holidays for me, it was a real focus on exactly how I'm using all of my time, all of my standard meetings. And I wiped out everything in my calendar and rebuilt it entirely around what I need to be able to drive success for the business, for my team, for my partners and members. So it completely reorganized my entire workflow and every day of my life.
Yeah, value bomb right there. I think just design your calendar like you are what you do. Like,
Yes.
if the calendar doesn't support your outcomes, then change it. Have you ever thought about giving up?
Have I ever thought about
Giving up.
giving up? Oh my God. I'm missing that big molecule. I don't know. I really can't imagine giving up. It's just not my thing. So no.
I think it's like, and we often get these things, I think, that people sort of face the maybe criticism from other people. Sometimes it's an external factor. Sometimes it's an internal, just not working the way I want it to work. It's not getting to where I want it to get to fast enough.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
then. But there is this, I think, in entrepreneurs, and a lot of entrepreneurs, and if you're surrounding yourselves, as we talked about so much today, surrounding yourselves with the right people, you kind of almost absorb their grit, their tenacity to kind of go, this is the direction I'm going. And I know I might have some stumbles along the way, but that's where I'm going.
Yeah. I think I shared with you before, Tim, it's like you can make up any title, right? Your grand poobah, whatever. And if you're an entrepreneur, you really can make up any title you want. But a DLS is something I'd take over any other title any other day, and that's a determined little shit. And when you add to that the fact that you're serving people that are absolutely clearly dedicated and committed to creating a meaningful impact with the success that they have in their business, if that's not inspiring, I don't know what it is. But I will tell you, it's not that when I say I don't have it in me to give up, I can't fathom it. Having said that, it doesn't mean that I don't have really rough days where I'm just like so frustrated, something's not working yet, or it's not going fast enough, or why isn't this profitable yet on this piece? And how do I get this to work? Or why is this person going in that direction? Like all of those kinds of things, 1,000%. I absolutely have those moments just like everybody. And I think it's really, for me, it's about how I make sure I'm taking care of myself. Like if you're a leader and you're not focused on how you sleep, eat, keep healthy and active, and make sure your brain is engaged, like with what you're doing right now, Tim, trying different things. If you're not doing that, you're not taking care of yourself to be able to pull yourself through those challenging moments. And the other thing I've found, and I don't know if you've had this as well, but as you get older, there's certain things where you're on a scale of 1 to 10. And as you go along, all of a sudden everything's 8 to 10. And then there's some kind of watershed, right? Some kind of breakthrough. Either you learn to do something better, you get sick, somebody close to you dies, like big things happen, right? And all of a sudden you go, wait a second, that 8's like a 0. It's like, bring the scale back out. That's nothing. I got that. And then gradually you get back here again. And so I think when you're taking care of yourself, you're able to spread that out for longer periods of time and identify when you're getting close again. It's like, maybe I don't want to get sick to have to understand I can bring it back out to here.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your personal motto? Do you have one?
My personal motto. Yeah, a personal motto. What's your personal motto, Tim?
I'm not sure that I have a personal motto. I've got lots of mottos. Actually, just on that last thing, I did actually come across someone's business card the other day where it had all the sort of regular titles like business development executive or something. And it also had on there employee of the year in 2023, self-assessed.
I love that. I don't know.
I think yours is very much DLS, right? Determined
shit. Like, look out. I'm gonna get up again because I'm not delivering for me. I'm delivering for everyone I care about. And that matters in business. And this is where when people know that you care about their success, more comes. Like during the recession, I was at the $28 billion company and I built a $20 million practice. During the recession, I have the official report. My group was the only one that met their financial targets that year. And it was just because we were so relied upon, we were so trusted by our clients that when the trouble of the recession happened, they spent more with us. We only had maybe a couple of clients that spent less or had to stop because of the financial burden. But the rest spent more with us, and you scale and grow. Yeah, so if I were to say, I said the DLS, the other thing I would say is I'm not precious. Don't be precious, for God's sake. If you fail at something, so what? You fall. I grew up on a farm, so I always say, look, there are only 3 states of being on a farm. There's useful, there's dead, and there's useful dead. That's it. There's only 3 states of being. So just be useful. You don't have to be perfect. There's no requirement for perfection. You could be perfectly you. I love the Judy Garland quote, why be a second-rate somebody else when you could be a first-rate you? Love that, love that, love that. But you need to be useful. Drive success in a meaningful way. And now you're useful. That's all that matters. And enjoy the ride people you have with you. Coming back to the beginning of our theme.
I've got one of the sort of personal mottos, and one of many probably I've sort of had. I'd love for someone to write on my tombstone, presuming I have one, is relentlessly resourceful.
Yeah.
And it comes back to that, is just be useful, right? Just be helpful or useful to somebody else.
I love that and I love it more and more all the time. I mean, it's how I grew up. On a farm, you don't get to say, oh, I'm this, so I don't have to come out and help pay. Like, I don't care if you're old or young. I don't care if you like to wear pink or blue, what your body parts are. Nothing matters that you're useful because the hay has to come in, or the oats need to go in, or the horses need to come in, whatever it is. That takes precedent, just being useful.
Yeah, absolutely. Tricia, you've dropped so many value bombs today, and I love hanging out with you because the conversation could go on. We will have to do it over wine sometime when I'm out in the US or you're out in Australia, or coffee or gins or whiskies or whatever it happens to be. It'll be great. But just the idea of just constantly shifting that lens and breaking through notions of what is required to succeed, looking at things in a different way than what you expect. And it is that difference, right? If we set the goal at $1 billion, then maybe we'll get to 100 million. Maybe we'll get to 10 billion.
Yeah.
And there's nothing stopping us if we surround ourselves with the right people and be the person that attracts others.
Yes.
It just attracts success. I really appreciate you jumping on the call today and sharing your story and some of your passion. It's clearly evident. Guys, if you'd like to learn more about the C-Suite Network and hang with Tricia and me on a Friday and many other days, you can also join the C-Suite Network as an executive leader. Surround yourself with some other amazing people in that community over at c-suitenetwork.com/join-today, or just go to c-suitenetwork.com, follow the links to the join today, find out more about what the C-Suite Network are doing across all those pillars. They're doing some really, really amazing stuff, and you should definitely go and check it out. Tricia, thanks again for joining us and sharing some of your story and your passion. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much, Tim.
Guys, that's it for today. Thanks again for joining us on another episode of More Clients, Less Effort. We hope to see you on another episode real soon. Take care.